LCSW Vibe Tribe fam. This is your girl Ariza, your licensed clinical social worker, your test prep guru, the person who's going to help you pass and get to the next level so you can be licensed yourself. Remember, this is your one-stop shop for tools, strategies, and the confidence you need so you can level up and pass this exam like a boss. So again, we're going to dive into the topic today, and I must say I'm really excited. I always say that, but I just get excited just giving you guys the knowledge. That's it. But today we're diving into essential social work terminology. Pretty much that every aspiring or practicing social worker should know, especially if you're preparing for this exam. However, sometimes as us seasoned professionals, we do kind of lose our touch and forget things from here and there. So it's really important also to kind of refresh our knowledge. So this video is also for you. Make sure that you take a pen and paper and write down some of these key terms and concepts. I want you to kind of understand how these terms can help you become more effective in your communication when it comes to your documentation and also your service delivery. If you have a solid grasp on some of these vocabulary, it not only helps boost your confidence and your credibility, but overall just makes you feel good. Like, I know what I'm doing, I got this, and I'm fine. Now, this video is on the shorter side, so I advise you to stay all the way to the end, and I'm gonna show you what I'm dropping in the community. So if you took your notes, that's great, but if you choose not to and you just wanna wait and see what I got at the end for you, definitely do so. But before I move forward in the video, go ahead and like and go ahead and subscribe, because I'm looking at my stats and I'm seeing a lot of people are coming through and they're subscribing, but maybe they're not showing me the love and letting me know they like the video, or they like the video but they're not subscribed, so they don't get the updates and know when I'm dropping stuff. So do me a favor. That's the only thing I'm asking for you guys to do, to pay it forward. That's kind of what we do as social workers. Pay it forward. I'm just asking you guys to go ahead and share this video with another social worker. And most importantly, like it and subscribe. It definitely helps with the YouTube algorithm. I know we're social workers. We're not all into that tech stuff, but I'm just letting you know this is what your girl does, and I want to keep it coming, but I got to be seen and I got to be known that I exist in this big YouTube universe. So those are the little things you can do that kind of pushes the video forward just a little bit, just a little bit. So that is why most people say that when you watch YouTube, they ask you to do those things, because that's the only way they can get acknowledged. It's not really like a TikTok or Instagram type thing where you can get instant gratification and share stuff and do it. It's a little different in how the algorithm works with YouTube. All right, enough of that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to jump into what we're going to be going over today. Like I shared with you before, you can go ahead and take notes or just wait to the end. And I got the beautiful cheat sheet for you at the end. If you stay to the video, I'll be dropping that in the community after this video drops. So today we're going to be talking about some must know social work terms for the ASWB exam. Whether you're taking the LCSW or the LMSW, this is going to help you, and I'm going to break it down and simplify it as much as possible. So the goal for this training is that you're going to be able to clarify the differences between some commonly confused concepts, be able to know how to apply these key terms when you see a practice question in some clinical reasoning, and then overall just understanding what these terms mean and how you use them and recognize them when it comes to the ASWB exam. Why terms matter? The exam is full of terminology. So if you know the right definition, it can change your answer drastically. These words guide you from reasoning, especially when you're doing those first, next, best, and most questions. You know, we got to have that method thrown in there each and every time. And you also want to learn terms because you're speaking the exam's language. Not only the exam's language, but you're speaking your new language, because you're now a licensed mental health professional. And with that mindset going into the exam, you're going to think a certain way, feel like you know something, and it's going to build your confidence, and you're going to be able to do extremely well when it comes to getting to the next level. So we're going to start real quick with some core social work values. Now, if you studied the Code of Ethics, the NASW Code of Ethics, these are some terms that you've seen. And if you have not seen them, then we need to go back a little bit. And you guys need to do some studying when it comes to ethics, because these are some terms that it doesn't matter how long you've been in the field. If you know anything about ethics, these are some terms that you're definitely going to see and definitely have to have knowledge of so you could be great in what you do. The first one is self-determination. Clients have the right to make their own choices. And I think that's pretty dope as social workers, being able to recognize that clients have self-determination, because a lot of times we just want to fix things. We just want to help everyone and make life great for them. But sometimes people just don't want that for themselves, or better yet, they're not ready for it. So it's important to understand that clients have the right. An example would be is maybe you have a client that's homeless and it's going to be a tornado and you're trying to seek them shelter, and you're trying to seek shelter for them, and you tell them about a shelter that's available, you give them all the information, you do what you do, and the client's like, you know what, I'm gonna ride it out, I'm good. And you're like, oh my God, I have to get them to go here, I have to save them. And and your mind starts going and racing about all these things. Then you need to remember this term, self-determination. Clients have the right to make their own choices. Even though we feel like going into the shelter is the best option for them, the client themselves don't agree. So as social workers, we must take a step back, stay in our lane, and realize that this client has a right to choose what they want to do. Are you studying for the LCSW or LMSW exam? Don't waste time on the wrong prep. Try my test prep program for free with a full module that gives you the real strategies, the real practice, and real results. Plus, you get access to my exclusive test prep community where you'll find support, study material, and accountability. No risk, no stress, just results. Click the link in the bio so you can get ready to win with the winning team. All right, informed consent. Clients must know the risk, the benefits, and the alternatives when we're providing treatment. They must have informed consent, and this basically means they are giving the information and consenting to have been informed about the risk, benefits, and alternatives that they could actually use in place of what we're actually doing. So this is really, really important when you're dealing with clients, especially when there's a lot of testing done. I know we don't really get into that research methods and all that kind of stuff. People hate that part of the exam. Well, let me go back. Some people dislike that part of the exam, but it is something to know because it's really important. And this is where you see a lot of informed consent. Before a client decides to be tested or utilized for some type of study or whatever it is, typically that's where you see informed consent. They must know what are the risk, benefits, and some other things they could do or practice instead of this. All right, let's move on to confidentiality. Don't break it. Confidentiality, that's it. That is a big no-no. You do not want to break confidentiality unless there is a reason to do so. And that would be the duty to warn and the mandated reporting. Whenever that applies. So if you're dealing with elder abuse or child abuse, clearly you're a mandated reporter, so you would have to break confidentiality. Maybe you are informed by your client that they are thinking about hurting their boss or hurting their coworker. You have the duty to warn. So confidentiality and what that person shared for you in the moment goes out the window. So keep that in mind. And in cultural competence, as clinicians, we must be aware, not just tolerant of what's going on out there with people and their different religious or cultural beliefs. We have to be aware that people are diverse and they deal with different situations, different circumstances, and sometimes they come from different walks of life that we might not be privy to. But we have to be aware and knowledgeable of it. So that is where the cultural competence comes in as a social worker. All right, let's move on to some other terms. Let's talk about some practice-based concepts. Practice-based concepts are pretty much those concepts that we utilize when we're working with a client, normally in private practice or a setting like that. So the first term is transference. We hear about this all the time. That is when a client projects the feelings that they have onto a therapist. So maybe the client is dealing with mother issues or father issues, and you're a male therapist or a female therapist, and they begin to project their feelings onto the therapist about how they feel regarding another person that you remind them of. So if you remind them of your mother, the way you're responding, the way you're engaging with them in a session, they might project some feelings and some things that they have towards their mother onto you. And then you have the countertransference. That is when the therapist projects their own personal issues onto the client. So it's the same thing. I'm the therapist. I'm working with a teenage child, and I can see this 15-year-old like my 15-year-old daughter, and maybe I'm talking and projecting my personal issues and beliefs onto them. Here's an example. I have a 15-year-old client. She's telling me how she skipped school, and she's been seeing this young man, and they've been, doing the do, and I am her therapist and what she's sharing with me is confidential. However, I could project some of those feelings like, oh my gosh, you know, good and well, you shouldn't be skipping school and being with that boy. This can happen. That's me putting my personal issues onto the client. That would be countertransference. Empowerment. Empowerment helps clients build on strengths and take control. We are strength-based in nature as social workers, so we typically empower our clients quite a bit. So that is a word or term that you're likely going to see. Systems theory. In systems theory, we must remember people are influenced by their environment. Their environment consists of various systems. It could be the church system, the school system, the government system, their home unit system, whatever it is. These are the systems that are in their lives and they are influenced by those systems in their environment as a whole. So that is really important to understand and know what systems theory is. We have the person in the environment or the pie. I'm kind of hungry too, so I don't even know why I would even tease myself and have my stomach growling in the middle of this video talking about pie, but that's another video for a whole nother time. All right, so person in the environment is pie. That is where you assess clients in their specific context. The person in their environment. You meet them where they are, and in that environment setting is how you're going to assess them and see how you can help them and get them to where they need to be. All right, let's move on to assessment and diagnostic terms. Yes, differential diagnosis. You guys have probably heard this term all the time. That is when you rule out similar conditions. So if you're in my coaching community or you watch some of my videos, you might know that I love diagnosis stuff. So one of the things is helping my people, my learners, those that are in my course, those soon to be licensed folks, because they all gonna get licensed. Trust and believe. Your girl gonna make sure it happens for them. We're gonna speak it, put it out in the atmosphere, but not only that, we're gonna put in the work. So with that being said, they have to know what differential diagnosis is. It's basically when you rule out similar conditions. So Johnny is sad, depressed. He's been not eating, not hanging out with his friends, not enjoying doing things that he used to do, and this has been going on for the last 2 years, and he just doesn't seem to get out of this mood. We can look at major depressive disorder. We can look at persistent depressive disorder. We can look at, okay, whether he has any other mood disorders, bipolar, cyclothymia, like the list goes on and on. But that's where the differential comes in at. We look at it, and based on the scenario I gave you, he probably has persistent depressive disorder, probably because I said 2 years or more. But he has a lot of symptoms of major depression too. So you want to look between those two and see, okay, has it really been a full 2 years, and has it stayed consistent, or has it been pretty mild depressive symptoms? And that's kind of how we would go through the differential process to figure out which diagnosis versus this diagnosis. All right, risk assessment. This is where we just pretty much identify the danger that the client presents to themselves and others. That is doing a full risk assessment. And then you have functional impairment. Does whatever this client has, condition or symptoms that they're experiencing, does it interfere with their daily life? So the same thing as the example I gave you about the person dealing with depression. Does this prevent them from going to work? Does it prevent them from being a parent? Does it prevent them from engaging in real life relationships? Probably so. That's showing that there's some functional impairment. And then comorbidity. That is co-occurrence of multiple disorders. So someone might have borderline personality disorder and bipolar. That's two common ones. They co-occur together. And then we have rule out. You're going to see that RO rule out all the time. That basically means that as a clinician, we haven't confirmed that this is the actual diagnosis, but it is possible. So with that being said, we're deciding whether we're going to rule out that diagnosis or not. So that is when you see the terminology rule out. And I know, guys, some of this stuff might be really simple for you, but sometimes you just need a refresher and just to think about it and keep it at the forefront of our minds. Alrighty, so let's see. Let's move on to the next questions, next view of terms, and that's ethics and research concepts. I know you guys have been watching my videos, and pretty much every single term that I'm going over in this video, I have went over in another video, but the video probably was just about that. So if you go to one of my ethics videos, if you go to my research videos, you're going to see this, but I'm going to go ahead and reiterate and give you the terms so that way you can focus solely on this and not anything else. Dual relationships. That's a personal and a professional level relationship. That's an ethical risk. You don't want to do it. I've been in situations where in my area, I might know and connect with a lot of people. They might have restaurants. They might have a tattoo parlor. They might do some type of a dentist or whatever. I don't know what it is. But I know a lot of people in a lot of areas just like you guys do. And because I'm an outpatient therapist, sometimes I realize that it can overlap. So I have to be mindful. I might put a post that I'm accepting new clients and I get all these referrals from families and friends and liked ones. And in the process, I'm meeting with this individual on a professional level, but maybe, just maybe, they're a family friend. And when I go to a family function or event, I see them on a personal level. You know, that's a very common thing that happens. Seeing a client in church, seeing a client at a community event or something. That doesn't really mean it's a dual relationship. But if I was close and connected with them, or realize like, oh my gosh, I'm the new children's ministry person, and the kids come into children's ministry, I realize that I see them in therapy. Ooh, that's a tough one. Now I can't, what do? I'm the children's minister, and then I'm also seeing them for therapy. Like, how did they start going to this church, and why did they come to this ministry? These are the things that put us in some ethical dilemmas, and we have to figure out what is the best action and how do we move forward. All right, evidence-based practice. Use intervention that is backed by research. That's all it is. Whenever you're doing some type of practice, treatment, intervention, modality, whatever you choose to do with the client, you want to make sure that it's evidence-based, because evidence-based lets us know that it has been backed by research and it is effective and it's going to help the client you have. Just like borderline personality disorder, we know that it's evidence-based research that shows that, what is it? I can't really hear you guys. What is it? Absolutely. We know that individuals that have borderline personality disorders, they do extremely well with DBT, and that is dialectical behavior therapy. I thought I heard some of you guys say it, but that is exactly what it is. DBT is an evidence-based practice, especially when you're working with clients that have borderline. All right, validity. That is the tool that measures what it should. So you have a tool that measures whether whatever you're measuring is valid or not. And then you have reliability. That lets us know the results are consistent over time, that we can rely on this measurement and this working because the results are consistent each and every time. The examination can let us know, the ASWB exam, we're not going to go through both types, but the ASWB has several different exams, and we know that it's reliable because the results are pretty consistent. It shows you what you get in certain races, certain age groups, and certain whatever is reliable across the board, showing the consistency over time as this is what's happening. So hopefully with some of the changes they've made, they'll show that a lot of the older test takers and test takers of minority groups and females and all this other stuff are passing at a much higher rate because of the things they implement. Then they can make sure that whatever they're measuring is valid and reliable and all that good stuff. All right, and then HIPAA, the H, the I, the P, the A. I'm going to give you a kudos if you know exactly what HIPAA stands for. I'm not even going to tell you in this video, but of course I know I worked in services and a lot of different places where HIPAA was just blown all around. And even in my private practice, we must know that we protect the client's health information, and I make sure everything we utilize is HIPAA compliant. So make sure you Google that if you don't know, because you should know as a mental health professional what HIPAA stands for. It is pretty long, but drop it in the chat. If you made it this far in the video, just drop in the chat what HIPAA stands for, and I'm going to definitely give you a shout out. I might have something special for you because that's huge. Just don't Google it though. Don't Google it. Don't put it nowhere else. Just tell me what you think it is. All right, guys. So let's jump into some practice questions. You made it this far. We're going to jump into some practice questions. This is, I'm sure, a lot of you guys' favorite part. I have 6 of them. So you might want to pause. And this one, I make sure your girl didn't show the answer on. So it's just a question. You read it, and then we're going to go from there. All right, number 1. A social worker is meeting with a client who is unsure about starting therapy and requests information about the risks and benefits. What concept does this best reflect? Self-determination, informed consent, or rapport building? Pause the video and tell me what you think the answer is. All right, so the correct answer is B, informed consent. The key here is that you have a client. They don't really know. They're like, I want to start therapy, but I really don't know what to expect. So they want to know some information. They want to know, what are some risks? Like, what could happen if I do therapy? What are some of the benefits that I can get from it? But what is the downfall? Like, there are some side effects and some risks that are involved with doing outpatient therapy. You're digging deep and you're going back and pulling up a lot of stuff from people past. So it could cause them to have different types of reaction. Maybe they start having some symptoms of, cold sweats, stressing out, waking up in the middle of the night, constantly thinking about what was discussed. So it does take a while. Sometimes things can get worse and then things get better. So that is important to understand that is a risk factor when it comes to seeking therapy. All right, so in this concept would definitely be informed consent. That is when you are identifying and letting the clients know all the risks and benefits of it. Question number 2. A client begins missing appointments and shows a loss of interest in therapy goals. The social worker suspects this may be an example of what? A, countertransference, B, resistance, or C, empowerment. All right, correct. The answer is B, resistance. In this one, the client shows a loss of interest in therapy goals. They're missing appointments. So it seems like they're starting to resist the whole process of therapy. That is kind of what we look at. They're resisting. All right, question number 3. A client from a marginalized community expresses frustration that their therapist seems unaware of racial trauma. Which social work concept is most relevant to improving the situation? A, rapport building. B, cultural competence. C, person in environment. Marginalized community, frustration, unaware of racial trauma. Which social work concept is most relevant? We got that most question. And the correct answer is B, cultural competence. In this case, it is really important that the social worker is culturally competent because they're working with someone that is already frustrated that their therapist is not aware of this. So the social work concept that's being described is that the client's therapist needs to develop cultural competence because that is obviously lacking based on the scenario and what the client is dealing with. All right, let's move on to question number 4. A social worker wants to select an intervention that has been proven effective for clients with anxiety. Which of the following concepts should guide the social worker's decision? Should it be systems theory, differential diagnosis, or C, evidence-based practice? And the key here is interventions that have been proven to be effective for a specific type of client or specific type of treatment. And that would be evidence-based practice, C. All right. I know some of you guys are 4 out of 4 and y'all killing it. Killing it. Practice question number 5. A client suddenly becomes emotionally withdrawn and appears confused during a session. The social worker documents flat affect and poverty of speech. These observations best support which clinical term? So think about that. They become emotionally withdrawn. They appear to be confused. They have poverty of speech, all of this stuff. And you're like, I don't know. And the key is, we likely didn't go over this in those questions. But the reason this one is up here is because I want you to recognize that if you studied and you knew certain terms, so like we went over functional impairment. If you know what functional impairment is, it's easy to say, oh no, this is not it. Oh yes, this is it. So you have to be able to kind of use your process of elimination. And this is a client, typically clients that are dealing with schizophrenia and things of that nature. These are some common symptoms that they will be shown or demonstrating, and these are negative symptoms. So the answer is C, negative symptoms. That flat affect, the poverty of speech, all that stuff was like a dead giveaway. Functional impairment is like monitoring not monitoring, is the actual how someone functions based on that impairment or disability or symptoms and stuff that they're experiencing. All right, let's move on to the last question, question number 6. And it says a social worker uses a strength-based perspective. I told you that's what we do. During an initial session, what does this most likely involve? A, diagnosing the client using the DSM-5. B, focusing on what's working in the client's life. Or C, prioritizing symptoms over personal goals. And the correct answer is B, you're focusing on what's working in the client's life. That is a strength-based approach. You want to meet the client where they are. All right, guys, you made it to the end of this video, so I'm gonna show you real quick. These are the 25 must-know ASWB terms. Some of them are shared, some of them have not, but this is a little cheat sheet that I have and I created. I will have that for you guys. Just make sure you like, subscribe, tell a friend, and join the community for the cheat sheets and the guides. It's definitely going to help level up your studying and get you to where you're trying to go. And I hope you're trying to go to that testing site and pass that exam so you can come back and tell your girl, I'm licensed now. Yes, that's the plan. You have an amazing day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Be blessed.